Yunjan Eva Sadatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasha Sukhena Brahma Samsparam Adyantam Sukham Ashnute Yunjan Evam Satatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasha Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham Adyantam Sukham Ashnute Yunjan Evam Satatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasa Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham Adyantam Sukham Ashnute Yunjan Evam Satatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasa
Sukhena Brahma Samskarsha
Sukhena Brahma Samsparsha
Adyantam Sukham Asnute
Adyantam Sukham Asnute Yunjan Evam Satatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasa Sukhena Brahma Samsparsha Adyantam Sukham Asnute Yunjan Evam Satatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasa Sukhena Brahma Samsparsha Adyantam Sukham Asnute. Okay, we're going to do word-for-word translation. Please repeat after me. Yunjan, engaging in yoga practice. Evam, thus. Sada, always. Atmanam, the self. Yogi, one who is in touch with the Supreme Self. Vigata, freed from. Kalmasha, all material contamination. Sukhena, in transcendental happiness. Brahma Samsparsha, being in constant touch with the Supreme. Adyantam, the highest. Sukham, happiness. Ashnute, attains. Okay. We will read the translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Repeat after me. Thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Please listen to the purpose. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparsha. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gita Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahavana Raghunatha Vikramtam Sajiva Savaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Narita Shri Vishakhanandascha Hey Krishna Karuna Hindu Gita Madam Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikanatha Radha Kanta Namaste Namaste तब तक कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये मंचतल्पतरुश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत श्रीवासदि गौर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram. Okay, so in this shloka, Prabhupada explains what self-realization actually is. And that is the starting point of any spiritual journey. So, just as my name is associated by my father's name, in my passport it says my name, and then it says my father's name, and then it says the surname. Similarly, because my identity is taken shape because of the presence of my parents. Similarly, we also have an identity, but then there is also a source of that identity. This body that I have, it has a source. It has come from my parents, and so the name of this body also has the name of the parents in it. So similarly, just knowing that we are the soul is not enough. If we know that we are the soul, but if we do not know what the source of the soul is, it is incomplete knowledge. So self-realization consists of three things. One is the soul. Number two is the source of the soul, which is known as Krishna. And the third is the relationship between the soul and source of the soul, which is Krishna. So the relationship between the soul and Krishna is the third thing. So once you have known these three things, then what is the relationship between the soul and Krishna? Prabhupada explains here that the relationship is that the individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme. And his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. So if you think about like a cycle, so on one side you have the soul, on the other side you have Krishna. So the soul is a part and parcel of Krishna. And the soul's duty is to render transcendental loving service to Krishna. Now one may ask, why do we need to do so? Why, as a soul, do we need to render transcendental loving service to Krishna? And he says here that by performing transcendental loving service to the Lord, one achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness. Now, we are all pleasure seeking by nature. No one wants suffering. Everyone wants to enjoy. Everyone is pleasure seeking, and this is our nature. And this is our nature because this is also Krishna's nature. And us being part and parcel of Krishna, we also have this tendency to seek out pleasure. And we want to seek out pleasure that is permanent, not temporary. Every time that we go to the supermarket and we think that, oh, if I buy this thing, or if I buy that thing, or if I buy this item, then I'll get happiness. But we always keep on going back to the supermarket looking for new things, for new items to try. But at the end, we are always remaining unsatisfied because the externals may change, but the inherent structure is fundamentally better. It's dead better. It's not going to give us any pleasure. So the soul has got its own body or its own classification. It can be known to have three things. It is always Sat, Chit, Ananda. So by default, the soul itself is always blissful. It doesn't need any external things to make it happy because it's already happy. So because the soul is already in a blissful state, the reason why we are not actually feeling happy is because we are contaminated materially. We are covered by material bodies. There are two material bodies, gross body and the subtle body. The gross body is made up of the 5 gross elements, and the subtle body is made up of 3 elements, there is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So, by removing the material contamination, we will be able to actually realize that the ananda feature of the soul. We don't need any extra to feel happy. We just have to rediscover. We just have to rediscover the fact that we are the soul. So, if we are materially contaminated, and if the soul is already blissful, the question arises as to how do you remove the material contamination. And here Krishna says that you have to be constantly engaged in yoga practice. If you are constantly engaged in yoga practice, you become free from all material contamination. So, we have to constantly engage in yoga practice. And the key word here is constantly. Not when you want to, but constantly. If you think about any sports person or any successful celebrity, then and if you look at their lifestyle, they are very, very disciplined and they are very, very determined to be practicing what they are good at, to become the best in their field. So as spiritualists, we need to also have the same sort of determination. We need to keep on constantly devote and engage ourselves in devotional service so that we can realize the fact that we are spirit souls. We know this theoretically, but to make it solid and realized knowledge, it needs constant endeavor. It needs constant endeavor. But this constant endeavor is only possible when the person is situated in the mode of goodness. In the modes of passion and ignorance, there is no endurance. There is no persistency. Even in the last text, Krishna says that the yogi whose mind is fixed on me, verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. So Krishna says that to be able to constantly keep your mind fixed on Krishna, you need to be above the mode of passion and ignorance. So, by being situated in the mode of goodness, you can then constantly endeavor to render devotional service. And how do you raise yourself to be the mode of goodness? So in the previous text, Krishna recommends that one must regulate the sleeping, the eating, and they should follow certain niyams. And so even in Ashtanga Yoga, the first two steps are yam and niyam, the do's and don'ts. So all of these things are required to discipline yourself, to raise your consciousness from the levels of ignorance and passion to the level of at least the mode of goodness. Because once you're in the mode of goodness, it's only when then you can do constant service. Without raising yourself into the mode of goodness, it's not possible. So, what we are doing right now is we are being on the mode of goodness and we are practicing devotional service. But by sincere application and determination, we will then transcend even the mode of goodness into the mode of pure goodness. And once we have reached pure goodness, we can then perform pure devotional service. So, we really need to move from theoretical knowledge to realized knowledge. From theoretical knowledge that we know that we are the soul, to actually realizing that yes, we are the soul. And once you are able to realize this knowledge, then what will happen? Krishna says that then you will achieve the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental learning service to the Lord. So, this is a very short text, and this is what I can cover. If there's anyone else with any questions, then we can continue.
So if somebody realizes in the soul, so is the realized soul?
If somebody realizes in the soul,
It's not what it is soul.
yeah.
Like it is enough.
No, he needs to have a relationship. He needs to know that just knowing the soul is not enough. You need to know the source of the soul as well. So you need to have, and once you know that, then you have a relationship.
What is the condition of that particular state? And at what stage somebody realizes?
When somebody just realizes that he's a soul, it's known as Brahman realization. And that is the first step in the threefold step of knowing the absolute truth. But once you know that you are the soul, then you get to know that you do not belong in this world. Once you know you don't belong in this world, then you search out where you actually belong. And then you go to the Paramatma realization, and then from there you go to Brahman realization. Brahma. So, anyone else? Okay, Grantha Shriman Prabhu Gita ki.